Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com.
You're caught in a dream. The adventure begins. Put your seat backs and tray tables in the upright position as we take a trip in the very fabric of reality. Join me, Andrew Bartzis, for Adventures into Reality, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps.
Your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe?
Alright, what happened here?
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
All right. Looks like we're hooked back up in Revolution. How are we doing, David? Are we still on in Revolution here? Are we broadcasting here? I'm in the chat room. We had the Skype went down. Alright, Skype went down and we're trying to get back up now. I'm assuming here that we're up. Can somebody tell me here in the chat room, or did everybody suddenly go brain dead here? Are we broadcasting here? If you want to call in, 347-688-2902. I'm trying to get back up. I've got back up on one of them, but I can't tell if I'm on the other one or not. Is Revolution Radio working here? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. We're talking about the true history of marijuana here. Now, folks, it's real simple. The foundation, Richard Kelly Hoskins, was my guest a long time ago. Been a while since I've had him on. A lot of the old patriots are getting old and getting disgusted with the ineffectiveness of our trying to educate the American people. The American people have simply gone brain dead. They've been programmed too much. They've been fed fluoride. They drink right out of the tap. Richard Kelly Hoskins told us that the self-sufficient family farm was the basis of every civilization. And that's what this movie, The True History of Marijuana, is telling you. That when our farmers were growing hemp, and the Army even asked them to grow hemp when we were involved in the Philippines, and when shipping hemp back and our rope and our fiber back from the Philippines was a danger. Might not make it, Japanese submarines might stop them. They asked the farmers to grow hemp again. In the 30s, when these people were taking over, William Randolph Hearst was cutting down the redwoods to make paper out of them. Cutting down trees 500 years old to make a sheet of paper that you threw away or wiped your ass with it. Hemp reproduces every year in sufficient quantities that our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our Declaration of Independence were all printed on hemp paper. The Encyclopedia Britannica for 100 years was printed on hemp paper. And then they made it illegal for our farmers to grow it, made it illegal for you to smoke it. William Randolph Hearst did that. For that, they let him build a castle, give him enough money to build a castle up there, while he was trying to demonize hemp, demonize the black musicians, demonize used races as a basis to demonize the hemp. We used to get high back in the 60s and go to the theater and watch Reefer Madness and laugh our ass off, because it wasn't true, but it had an effect. The same way the television is having an effect on you now. They don't call it programming for nothing. They are programming you, and they want you to be afraid. They want you to be afraid of hemp. They wanted you to be afraid of the hippies. And come on, the hippies stopped the whole marijuana movement, the love movement, stopped the war in Vietnam, an illegal war. You didn't see that this time, did you? You didn't see that with, where were the protesters for Iraq? Where are the protesters, you know, those nasty old Taliban over there in Afghanistan? Well, they were destroying the opium poppy crops, so that's why we went in and bombed them. That's why we went in and fought them. And that's why America, because of their aggressive tendencies, we went to Vietnam and bombed farmers. Why? To take over the control of the opium, of the heroin. They shipped it back here in the body bags of my brothers. This is the root of all corruption. They made marijuana illegal so you can't grow it in your backyard, but they can pay Barry Seal to fly it in. They brought me some of the best Oaxacan I've ever had. Delivered it to me in my living room. That was before I knew he was running all the cocaine into President Clinton. The true history of marijuana is up on my website. And it's right above the statistics here. Tobacco today kills 400,000 people a year. Alcohol, 100,000. All your legal drugs out there, 20,000. All the illegal drugs out there, 15,000 people a year. Caffeine, I'm taking a sip of that now, but that kills 2,000 people a year. Aspirin, that kills 500. Marijuana, whoops, no one has ever died from marijuana. Oh my God. Why is it illegal? Why? Because the oil companies don't want you producing your own fuel, and you can make more fuel out of hemp than you can out of corn. But 10% of your gasolines are made from taking that genetically modified corn that's not fit to eat, but you can make alcohol out of it and sell it, and the oil companies sell it to you.
Bring tranquility and moral order in a country torn apart by social revolution. Among the first things he had to face was the large popular movement asking for the decriminalization of marijuana.
Now they're talking about Richard Nixon now. I am not a crook, Richard Nixon. Oh boy.
To buy time, Nixon ordered a new commission to study the effects of marijuana on the individual.
I wonder if you could give us some of your thoughts on it. Mr. Point, as you know, there is a commission that is supposed to make recommendations to me about this subject.
But once again, the results were quite opposite to what he expected.
The recommendation of the Commission in its first report is that we do not feel that private use or private possession in one's own home should have the stigma of criminalization, that people who experiment should not be criminalized for that particular behavior.
Richard Bonney was co-chair of that commission.
It became apparent how little was really known about the effects of this drug and how little evidence there was to support the claims about its dangers.
When Nixon was informed of the results, he trashed the report without even reading it. He then went on television to let the country know that the draconian laws on marijuana would not change.
I shall continue to oppose efforts to legalize marijuana.
Then Nixon had a law on controlled substances approved, which placed marijuana in so-called Schedule I, together with more heavy and dangerous drugs like heroin and morphine, which have, quote, no medical use.
The federal government, by classifying marijuana in Schedule I, is saying that it has no medical uses, which is a bald-faced lie because it has 10,000 years in every culture of medical use.
DEA Administrative Judge Francis Young ordered a study on the therapeutic validity of marijuana and concluded that its placing in Schedule I
Was unreasonable.
arbitrary and capricious.
He came out with a 60-odd page opinion saying marijuana is probably the safest drug in the pharmacopoeia, and it certainly has medical utility, and it should be moved to Schedule II.
At around the same time, England ordered a similar study by Baroness Wooden, a well-known sociologist and criminologist who had collaborated with the British government before. The results were similar to those of the Nixon Commission. The long-term consumption of cannabis in moderate doses, said the report, has no harmful effects. There is no evidence that this activity is causing violent crime or aggression, antisocial behavior, or is producing in otherwise normal people conditions of dependence or psychosis requiring medical treatment. The study concluded that possession of a small amount of cannabis should not normally be regarded as a serious crime to be punished by imprisonment. But there was nothing that could apparently change Nixon's mind. In fact, to better implement his new laws, Nixon created the powerful DEA, the federal agency tasked with fighting the traffic and use of drugs all over the nation. Thanks to their special status, DEA agents could spy on private citizens and could break into their houses without a warrant. Thus, the DEA became also a tool to control blacks and other minorities and all those who had political positions disliked by the White House. But the spread of marijuana appeared to be unstoppable, and towards the mid-70s, it had already reached the first strata of American suburbia.
All right, I'm going to take a call here. Hello, David. How are you?
Just played just fine. Been trying to get through ever since the beginning of the show, and all those numbers are not seeming to be working today.
I don't know what the problem is, but probably attributable to Department of Homeland Security, who is probably, I don't know, all of these agencies are so corrupt. These are enslavement agencies. The DEA, the BATF, who is responsible for Waco, who was responsible for Oklahoma City, who was responsible for the Fast and Furious. They were arming, they were arming the CIA. They were selling the CIA, giving CIA drugs. CIA is posing as the drug cartels. Actually, that could be the Drug Enforcement Agency. They tried to take out the independents. They took out the Median cartel, but they replaced it immediately with the Cali cartel because the flow of cocaine and opium and hemp and into this country, and now methamphetamine into this country, never stopped, never slowed down at all.
Well, I was just listening to the host on the show just before yours, and he was saying how the Boston Marathon bombing was an actual event that actually happened, and his guest was agreeing with him. So I was just tuning in a little early, and I thought, boy, all these people either back it up NBC, CBS, ABC, and CNN, or they don't know. It's amazing.
Well, most people get their news from the television, and they've got no idea how corrupt this is. I mean, you've got people, and I believe you shared the CNN reporter that said we were told to demonize Iran. I mean, the reason they are, I believe they know that Iran doesn't have any nuclear weapons. We know that Israel has 400 at least nuclear weapons, and they bragged about the ability to reach the capitals of Europe. So that's, to me, that's just a threat that they're making. The real reason they don't want Iran is because Iran, an Iranian scientist, has pretty much documented that he knows how to build those flying saucers. He knows what the energy source is. And by the way, the movie Sirius, I just watched that, and that was a hell of a movie there, put out by Dr. Stephen Greer, who's gone to Congress, who's tried to talk to these people. And the reason they don't want you knowing about the UFOs, the power system there, is because you can run your home off a magnetic generator. You can run a UFO of these magnetics, gravity devices, anti-gravity devices. They don't want you doing any of that. Son of a gun.
Well, did you know that this morning when I email, I got a posting from IntelHub.com that says that Barack Obama is now trying to get through the Congress and Senate to allow him to stay in office for up to 4 terms now. And this is something that hasn't even been said to the public yet or voiced at all, but I guess it's another one of these sneaky tricks. And the problem is that most of our Senate and Congress are all elites with the elite, and they're not telling the public about any of these things that are going on. So whether it be a Mountain Marathon thing or a Lower Colorado or a Big Sandy debacle, even in towers that were brought down, a while ago, all this was planned by the elite, and it's all taking place right now.
They are doing the same thing with Barack Obama. They used that they did with Roosevelt. Roosevelt got his terms extended. They put somebody, and it was a Roosevelt who was in office there before, that set the stage for Nixon, to set the stage for the war on drugs, to set the stage for the war on poverty, and now we got the war on terror. And the war on terror is a war against anybody, anywhere in the world that doesn't want to go along with this one world banking, Jewish-run new world order. And if you don't think it's Jewish-run, folks, the Mossad demanded a office in Homeland Security, and they didn't get just an office. They got the whole thing. Michael Chertoff, Michael, son of the devil Chertoff, the man that's responsible for radiating every airline passenger. You're being subjected to radiation every time you fly. This is part of the attempt to kill us. The chemtrails are another part of the attempt to kill us. The pharmaceutical companies are part of the attempt to kill us. And even your clothing, you know, hemp clothing is the most durable. They made, that's where your blue jeans, that's where your Levi jeans came from, was the sails. He took the sails made out of hemp. Your rope is made out of hemp. And your jeans and your clothing were made out of hemp, but they lasted too long. You got to have these cotton jeans, and cotton is the most destructive, nasty plant you can imagine.
Well, that's what part of our political run in 2016 will be concerning, Clayton, is hemp and hydrogen to get our system up and running again with, of course, free electricity for everyone. As I put it on your chat board today, myself and Jesse Ventura will be running once again on an independent ticket, and I'm going to be landsliding this next election partly because of all the truth seekers and the news coming out about Barack Obama's name being Barry Soetoro, and all our Congress and senators all on the tape now. But hemp can make over 1,000 products which can be used readily by our general public, and it's the key to getting us all back to work again.
That's right. That's right. You've got the right platform, hemp and hydrogen. Add magnetics to that, and you've really got it. I mean, it's we could be totally self-sufficient. Oh, but they want to call us an isolationist. They did that. This is the new world order. I've got, and you know, I've got a lot of people that have been I've been talking to. My son is one of them. They're so disgusted with the United States that they want to leave. They want to go to Honduras. They want to go to Belize. They want to go to another country. And the New World Order is prevalent in all of those countries. So there's no getting away from this. This is world government, whether it's Argentina, unless you're a multi-billionaire like Bush and can go down and buy land down there in Uruguay.
Well, the ridiculous thing about it is the entire world is upset, and they're not really so upset about the United States. We're just mad about our government investing in their own problems, and that's the Obama administration along with our Congress and Senate. It's not all the people here doing the problem. It's just those few. And actually, we just need to get rid of those few individuals and court-martial them and paint them up outside against the brick wall and take care of them. And I think then the whole world needs a sigh of relief, and we'd get on the bandwagon along with the rest of working, honest individuals in this country, and we'd see a complete and total world recovery in just a few short years. But this is what this next election is going to be all about. It's going to be concerning in 2016.
Well, you know, I've always supported you. I appreciate that you want to run for president, and I think you're just as qualified as Mitt Romney, who is in on the drug dealing scam. Bill Clinton, who was in on the drug dealing scam, George Bush Sr., who was in on the drug smuggling clan, you know, and you're just as qualified as anybody. You know, yep, hemp, and somebody pointed out that Henry Ford built a car, Model A, out of hemp. You could hit it with a sledgehammer, it'd bounce off, and it formed the gasoline too. That formed the fuel.
Right.
I mean, they were burning hemp oil in their lanterns. Well over 100 years ago, probably more than that. That's probably why the pyramids don't have any smoke residue, because hemp burns clean. The hemp oil, you know, Jack Herer, who I financed while he was writing the Emperor Wears No Clothes. He said if you were stranded on a deserted island, if you were sent to a deserted island and you could only take one thing with you, one thing, what would it be? His answer was the hemp seed. With the hemp seed, you could grow your own materials. You could build a shelter from the hemp plants, which are stronger than bamboo. It would provide your food. It would provide everything for you. Everything for you. And he was absolutely right. There's more than 10,000 products made out of hemp. Your Nikes, some of your Adidas are made out of hemp over in China. But you can't grow it here? Why?
Yeah, I tell Clayton, all we got to do is quit spreading those chemtrails over our heads, and the growing of hemp actually revitalizes the soil for you, just a year or two, and then after that you can grow whatever you want again in there. But every few years, just plant seeds from the hemp plant and grow your own, and then sell it off to the manufacturers to reprocess them for the product they want. But also, a big discovery that's been made the last few years is that the hydrogen molecule that's in our water that we drink, H2O, can be separated and used to burn in your pistons of your engine clean, and that's an amazing discovery in itself. So we don't need to pump gas or oil, so to speak, out of the ground anymore. We can use the hemp oil and the hydrogen from the water we're drinking to fuel all of our engines. And we can have basically an immaculate atmosphere in just a few short years. It'll clean right back up. But this is all part of the schematics of this, I call it the old world order, rather than the new world order yet. And the elite, they're controlled by this population of small individuals which have their designs on ruining all of our lives at the moment. But like I say, in 2016, we're all going to have a vote, and we're all going to be able to decide for ourselves what we really want, and I think it's going to be a landslide victory in our favor.
I hope so. I hope you do. The whole problem is, and they will deal with this, what they're planning on doing is they're going to close down the internet, just like I'm blocked. Free American is blocked in library. Walk into a library. Do you want to test this out? Take your laptop with you. Walk into a library and try to get freeamerican.com. They use these little services, these little Jewish services they set up. Abusive Host Blacklist.com. AHBL.com. And if you bought your domain from GoDaddy, they don't like GoDaddy, so you don't even have an appeal on it. There is no porno on my site. There's nothing that's untrue. I've been publishing for 40 years. I've never been sued for libel or slander, ever. And That means everything I'm telling you folks is accurate. Now, stay with me, David, and let's go back to the true history of marijuana. They're giving you some excellent facts here. Again, this backs up, this film backs up everything I'm telling you. If a policeman, if a man with a badge can come up and want to throw you in prison, I mean, there ain't no difference in that than being knocked in the head and waking up on a galley rowing some Jew's boat across, bringing slaves across. You know, folks, this is what they do. They go after people. And I do have a thing up on corruption. It's a PDF. I downloaded the PDF, opened it up, and I couldn't get it to open up in my browser. But if you open it up under Adobe Reader, you can see how deep the corruption goes. You know, the Kennedys were part of this power elite. They were involved in the alcohol running. Joe Kennedy was. You know, he was a powerful man, and his sons saw the light and tried to stop the wars and tried to stop the bankers.
Now the user was not only...
Now, let's go back to the true history of marijuana. You just stay with me there, David.
The dropout hippie, the penniless artist, or the long-haired student, but also the corporate lawyer, the bank manager, or the grandmother of that student.
I spent a lot of time with my daughter and her friends, and they all smoke marijuana, and so I had to try it.
Passionate activist groups were being born all across America, demanding the decriminalization of marijuana.
We don't want any penalties for the private possession and use and cultivation of marijuana.
In the first of its kind, Oregon State in 1973 challenged the federal law and proceeded to decriminalize the personal use of marijuana. 10 more states would follow within a few years. In the meantime, Richard Nixon, defeated by his own moral issues, retired from the stage. In a twist of direction that seemed to better reflect the changes in society, Democrat Jimmy Carter, elected in 1976, took an open stand in favor of decriminalization.
President Carter proposes major changes to federal drug laws.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana, leaving the states free to adopt whatever laws they wish concerning marijuana.
But in the short 4 years he had in office, he was able to get very little done. The return to the White House of the Republicans with Ronald Reagan meant a new tightening in the war on marijuana.
Leading medical researchers are coming to the conclusion that marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug in the United States, and we haven't begun to find out all of the ill effects. But they are permanent ill effects.
Now, that was Ronald Reagan, a hero of the conservative, and the man that gave you George Bush. All right, now, folks, I'm not have a producer today, so David, here's the flaw in why you couldn't get on. Why you couldn't get on, because you need to call, folks. Let me give you the number here. Let me find it here. 347-688-2902. If you want to join David Koss, who, and by the way, I'm still spinning my coffee, and probably one of the reasons that I'm healthy today. David Koss's book is Farm Physics, and again, the number's 347-688-2902. We're talking about hemp. We're talking about hydrogen. We're talking about the police state that's created. What's that you got? What's that you smoking that marijuana? We stopped a war while we were getting high. We fought a war while we were getting high. 347-68. Yes, sir. What?
Yeah, that's about the size of it, Clayton. They're trying to snowball us with all this war and hate and fear-mongering. And actually, I'm sick and tired of working hard for a living, being raised on a farm. We put in a good 50, 60 hours a week during the harvest season, but I'm 57 years of age, and I only really want to work maybe 12 hours a week, and that could be possible for us all if I get elected president. And people just can't even imagine how that could ever be possible. But I'll tell you, it would give everyone enough time to raise their children right, to educate them properly, and a whole new future would start for us all if we just can make that change. But I don't see what we can't, because everything's in place. All the roads are here, all the houses are nice, everything's been built. All we have to do is just vote, and vote all together.
Well, again, that's the problem I've always told you, because my website is blocked by these bastards, because they don't want this information getting out. They don't want people to know that we got a choice between. We donated, the American people donated $1 billion last year, and what did we get? Oh yeah, we got Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's all we got. That's all we got.
And now,
but you know, there are several people, Hollywood names that I dropped on your chat board this morning, like Oprah Winfrey, Larry King, even Dr. Phil, who have all been practicing this nuclear Southbound fluid concept that you do to your coffee every morning, and they're all showing signs visually that this is having an effect. And it's just a matter of time before Oprah has to say something about it, a magazine or on the television set. So I'm confident. I know it's coming, and it's going to happen soon.
Well, I have seen films from, I believe it was somewhere Yugoslavia. Of course, that's been broken up and to destabilize, balkanize is what they call it. There was one guy that was doing this for an auditorium. He was spinning the water of everybody's water in the whole place, and all this is, folks, and if you watch Sirius, I'd suggest that you download that and get get serious about this, folks. SIRIUS, and what they're talking about is the mental, being able to contact aliens by telepathy. And you know that pretty well, don't you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I've been speaking with them regularly here for about 20 years, and they filled me in on all kinds of facts and figures. But you know, it's just it's a whole new age beginning now, Clayton, and you and I at the front of the pack, so to speak. I know a lot of the idiots on the chat board don't have a clue to what's going on, but it really is true. And for all the normal people out there that are listening, I just want to give you all a heads up and a handshake of assurance that it's going to get better soon, and this is not the end of anything.
No, I said that the whole Mayan prophecy, in 2012, that may have been they may have been accurate in signaling the end of the banksters. Now a lot of people have woken up about these bankers and what they have done. A lot of people are becoming aware of that. Now I'm giving you this. Let me give you this number out again, folks. Take this down. 347-688-2902. I'm talking with David Kosh. And David, you're welcome to come on my show anytime. I don't deal well with the chat board anymore, so I basically stay off of that. We got the hate Clays and Clay's a liar and taking my name in vain. This is what they do, folks. This is how they've got to operate, and they do this. Generally, it's the dupes, the people out there that are being used, the useful idiots out there, like Rabbi Ted, that just want to distract, that want to take you away. That's why I don't even bother. The only reason I come on the only reason I go into the chat room is to see you, say hello to you. I appreciate you being a fan. I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate what you want to do. We spent, again, let me repeat this, we spent $1 billion on the Republican and Democratic parties. Where did that money go? Where did all of that money go? I'll tell you where it went. It went into the pockets of the media companies, the Jewish-owned media companies. But if by saying that, somebody's going to be telling you I'm anti-Semitic, we're the Semites. It ain't the Jews. What we've got here are the Zionists, who are Jews, who say they're Jews but are not, are of the synagogue of Satan. This is what Jesus told you. This ain't Clay Douglas telling you this. Jesus told you that. Now, who are you going to believe, folks? You're going to believe the lying media, the ones that gave you Sandy Hook, the ones that gave you the Boston Marathon. These are paid actors, handicapped actors, to make these drills look real. And the drills look real enough that they do kill some people. They do. All right, I think we've just lost everybody.
I'm still here.
Okay, right, great. We got that. All right, we're still operating here. All right, and let me go back here. I really want to do this, so let me go back to where we were here and talk about the what we got here. Let me find it.
I just wanted to mention to all the listeners out there today, to pull up the YouTube and watch the video entitled "A New Cure for Cancer" and everything else. So instruct them on how to do this new molecular salsifon fluid concept to their glass of water, juice, or whatever they're going to drink, and it only takes 13 minutes. So pull up on the YouTube the video, "A New Cure for Cancer" and everything else, and watch it today. It's so easy.
All right, let's do that. And meanwhile, the true history of marijuana, the full movie, is up on my website, and that is working.
No one, however, has ever been able to find those alleged studies which would show devastating effects on the marijuana user.
Pharmaceutical companies are very threatened by the idea of people having direct access to substances that really work. And so there is a lot of effort to scare people away from natural medicines by telling.
Now that is Dr. Andrew Weil, W-E-I-L, speaking there. And this is exactly what they try to do. So the pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know that you can put a seed in your backyard and grow a plant that'll replace all the Valium, all the Luvox, all the hundreds of dollars that you spend or that Medicare spends. They're still ripping off you, or they're ripping off your government by doing this. Here we go.
They're dangerous. That things out of nature are more dangerous for you than the products of pharmaceutical companies.
With the full support of the White House, the DEA now had available the most modern technology for controlling and terrorizing its citizens. It soon became a feared apparatus of state repression. Thousands of young Americans ended up in prison every day for possession of a single reefer. Innocent young people saw their personal records stained forever for a simple arrest. Read my lips. The presidency of George H. Bush, former CIA director and Reagan's successor, made the repressive measures against marijuana users even tougher.
Our nation has zero tolerance for casual drug use. If you do drugs, you will be caught.
And it was under, I believe it was under Reagan or Nixon back in the 60s that I did time. Now, Clay, we can get you 7 years, but if you go before a jury, you could get 99 years. And I met people in the Texas prison that had been there for 20 years for having a joint that you can smoke in California now, if you get doctor's permission, and I'm totally against that. I am totally against that. Why should we have to ask a doctor? Why should we have to pay a doctor for something God gave us? Now, here's more George Bush.
You will be punished. Some think they won't be one for them in jail. You make them. The rules have changed.
Once the Democratic Bill Clinton was elected, everyone expected a softening stance on the repression of marijuana users and a return to a more balanced position. To everyone's surprise, Clinton instead relaunched the war on drugs on a global scale.
Drugs are every nation's problem, and every nation must act to fight them. We are determined to build a drug-free America and to join with others to combat drugs around the world.
In the meantime...
Now, this comes from a man whose brother said, referred to him as a Hoover vacuum cleaner. He liked the cocaine so much. Now, here we're going to hear from Janet Reno, Clinton's Attorney General, who gave us Waco, who murdered almost 100 men, women, and children, families at Waco. Why? Because they had a self-sufficient family farm, and they had hacked into the DEA's drug running operation. The DEA is running the drugs, and they're busting anybody that buys the drugs from them. That way they get it all. They get it all. Listen.
His Secretary of Justice, Janet Reno, went as far as to openly threaten doctors who wish to prescribe marijuana for medical use.
We want to make clear that federal law still applies, and federal officials will continue to apply the law, and DEA officials will review cases, as they have, to determine whether to revoke the registration of any physician who recommends or prescribes so-called Schedule I controlled substances.
While systematically ignoring the results of all the new medical studies, Clinton officials kept propagating the false information, which has never found support in scientific studies on the alleged dangers of marijuana.
All available research has concluded that marijuana is dangerous to our health.
By the end of his mandate, Clinton had become the president who spent more than anyone else in the history of the United States to fight the war on drugs. With the presidency of George W. Bush, the situation remained pretty much the same. And only the election of Barack Obama seemed to bring in a new sense of change.
Federal law, of course, still considers it a controlled substance. And there have been attempts from Washington to punish doctors.
Yeah, I mean, I would not punish doctors if it's prescribed in a way that is appropriate. That may require some changes in federal law. I will tell you that what I'm not going to be doing is using Justice Department resources to try to circumvent state laws on this issue, simply because I want folks to be investigating violent crimes and potential terrorism. We've got a lot of things for our law enforcement officers to deal with.
But when in 2010, California was about to vote on Proposition 19, the song from Washington regressed back to its old tune.
Top prosecutor is now reminding folks that pot will still be illegal under federal law. The Attorney General Eric Holder warns the U.S. government will continue to enforce the law even if voters in California pass Prop 19.
Proposition 19 did not pass. Therefore, the conflict between the federal and state laws remains at this point unresolved. Quite different is the attitude by some European countries, where the law enforcement has instead concentrated on cutting down illegal drug trafficking, while the user is no longer treated as a criminal. The most famous example is certainly the Netherlands, where personal possession and consumption of marijuana has been decriminalized for many years. Contrary to what many feared, marijuana use has not increased significantly in this country, while the number of crimes connected to illegal drugs has declined drastically. In Amsterdam today, any adult can walk into one of the so-called coffee shops and purchase a limited quantity of grass for personal use without having to fear being arrested. Millions of dollars are saved by not having to continuously send to prison thousands of individual users, while the same money can be used to pursue much more efficiently the criminal trafficking of heavier and more dangerous drugs, such as cocaine and heroin. But the most advanced and possibly shocking example comes from Portugal, which in 2001 chose to decriminalize the possession and use of all kinds of drugs, from marijuana to heroin, from cocaine to amphetamines.
8 years ago in Portugal, the law was changed so that possessing or using any illicit drug was no longer a crime. At the time, there were warnings the policy would be disastrous and that the country would become a European haven for drugs tourism. But what one politician at the time called the promise of sun, beaches and any drug you like simply didn't materialize. In fact, since decriminalization, the consumption of drugs here in Portugal has gone down.
The Portuguese drug squad stresses they're not going soft on the traffickers. Seizures have more than doubled since 1995. Police say earlier fears that Portugal would be awash with drugs following decriminalization have proved unfounded.
We felt, and the Portuguese police forces were worried, that there would be an increase in consumption after decriminalization. This did not happen.
Local police believe things are getting better.
If we were to hang around here for a while, we would see some drug taking, but not as much as a year ago.
When users are caught, they receive a summons from the police ordering them to attend a special drugs commission run by the health service. Nothing to do with the court system at all. From there, they're offered treatment and support.
We try to dissuade people to do drugs. We don't forbid them, but we try to inform them about the risks that they are taking while they are doing drugs.
The idea that users need care, not punishment, has swept across Europe. 10 countries in the EU generally don't pursue possession as a crime.
Portugal's current Prime Minister was one of the chief architects of the policy change and says what his country has done can be exported internationally.
I think the strategy can work in any country. You just need to rid yourselves of prejudice and take an intelligent approach.
Many countries are currently considering some sort of decriminalization, and the situation remains fluid throughout the world. But the factor that has the highest potential to radically change the future of cannabis is certainly the enormous progress made in the scientific circles on marijuana's medical properties. The fact that marijuana is an effective treatment for hundreds of different diseases has been known for centuries. It is often considered a miracle drug, but now we are beginning to understand why. The medicinal qualities of cannabis have been known since ancient times. Emperor Shen Nung, the founder of Chinese medicine, prescribed marijuana for rheumatism and malaria. His soldiers used cannabis leaves to heal their wounds because of its antibacterial properties. In the Indian subcontinent, cannabis has always been used in Ayurvedic medicine for epilepsy, gastritis, anorexia, bronchitis, leprosy, spleen problems, diabetes, and asthma. In the beginning of the 19th century, doctors returning from Asia imported the use of medical cannabis to the West, where they used it to alleviate the symptoms of typhus, tetanus, and other infections. Queen Victoria regularly used marijuana to alleviate her menstrual pains. Her personal physician declared that, managed properly, cannabis is one of the most valuable medicines. At the end of the 19th century, over 30% of drugs available in America contained cannabis. Cannabis was regularly prescribed by doctors and was part of their traditional medicine bag. The therapeutic qualities of cannabis are almost as numerous as the countless products that can be extracted from the plant. Prevention of nausea and vomiting caused by chemotherapy, anorexia, pain caused by tumors, damages to the spinal column, glaucoma, muscular weakness, to name but a few. How is it possible, one may ask, that one single plant can offer such a wide variety of therapeutic remedies? It all began in 1964 with the discovery of THC, the chemical compound that produces the mental alterations in the marijuana smoker.
These substances in the cannabis plant which are active are kind of fatty-like, lipid-like, and they're hard to work with. So it has been very hard for chemists to get a handle on these kind of substances. Therefore, it took until 1964 for Raphael Mechoulam and his colleague Edrin to discover the active compound in the cannabis plant, which they called then delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or as we know it, THC.
The compound that we isolated, 1964, tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, has been looked into in great depth. And indeed, for the next 20 years, people got to know a lot about the chemistry, a lot about the clinical effects, a lot about the biochemistry of THC. One thing was still unknown 20 years later. I mean, I'm speaking now, it's 1964, till the mid-
All right, I'm going to stop it there. David, are you still with me?
Yes, I am, Clayton. Yes, I am. And I just like to thank you once today for allowing me to speak on your program just briefly. And I'm listening all the time, and it's getting better every day.
All right, I appreciate it. I'm going to focus on this because this information, folks, this is how they founded the police state. This is how the oil companies and the pharmaceutical companies got the power that they have over this country today. This is why they do the wars. This is why they're giving our veterans. I mean, in Vietnam, my brothers over in Vietnam were smoking pot, and they were happy and they were healthy, and probably resisted the effects of Agent Orange. We're out of time here. David, thank you. And God bless you. We'll see you on Monday. We'll have more guests on Monday, but the message is going to remain the same. Get high, get happy, get hip. Tell them what they can do with their police state. God bless you all.